Hello and welcome, Oppen babies, to Backlot Banter. What we have in store for you today is a little bit different from our typical programming. I'm Tanner Dykstra. I'm joined here again by Abram Buner, coming hot off of our Mission Impossible ranking. And just got a casual, chill conversation for you today about, of course, the movie-going sensation that has taken the world by storm, Barbenheimer. We're here to talk about. We're here to break down. We're a couple days removed from the weekend of Barbenheimer, but we're still in the throes of it. We're in the afterglow, maybe. But before we get into it, just on a sort of a long, rambling conversation about who knows what, I want you to subscribe to Backlot Banter if you like those kind of conversations. I want you to like this video because I'm sure it's going to be a great one. Comment down below your thoughts on Barbenheimer. If you want to talk about Barbenheimer or any of those movies individually, or any movies that have released, or video games, or what have you, you can join our Discord server. That link is in the description. Ring the bell for notifications on Backlot Banter. And Abram, let's get into it. Abram, you selfishly said that you largely wanted to do this so you could talk about these movies because you were not on either of the Backlot Banter reviews.
Right. I live this sort of degenerate lifestyle, Tanner, where I work all week and then I don't get to go to the theater until Saturdays now. And you and
Oh
your
well,
you and your newfangled Midwest lifestyle go on Thursday night.
my newfangled liberal 9 to 5 job, that all the kids are having these days.
And Tanner, I wanted to talk about it because I do want to opine about these films a little bit, but I want to do it through the context of kind of the historic moment we're living through. This is one. There's going to be a day, Tanner, where you and I are going to be grandfathers, and we're gonna be sitting down. We're gonna be sitting down with our podcast mics, telling our grandchildren a real life podcast narrative
Whoa.
about where we were. Our grandfathers asked where they were during World War II. Our
That's
parents
true.
are asked where they were during 9/11. We're going to be asked where we were during Barbenheimer.
I agree.
And I just think it's, jokes aside, a very exciting cultural moment because I don't know about you, Tanner, but this is the busiest I have seen my theater in,
hmm
I don't even know how long. Maybe since Maverick. My Top Gun Maverick showing was pretty busy. But
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
a while ago.
exactly. That was a while ago, and it was a very different phenomena because that
Yeah.
was, yes, I'd go to a random theater or whatever, be walking through a movie theater, and I'd see a sold out show of Top Gun Maverick. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I love seeing that. But now I'm seeing sold out showings of two movies, two very
Yeah.
different films, for presumably very different demographics, and I'm also just hearing more people talk I'm also just hearing more people talk about these movies. I've had numerous conversations at my newfangled 9 to 5 job about who's going to go see them, what order we're seeing them in. It really has taken on a whole new tenor of these films hitting the mainstream, and that's what has made them both such successes.
Yeah, I mean, an anecdote to that effect, my grandfather, who's in his 80s,
hmm
knows what Barbenheimer is as a concept. And I think
Yes.
that just sort of speaks to the fact that this is a sort of a hip phenomena, has made it to all of these sort of normie avenues of information, principally, in my experience, AM radio
Oh,
and
wow.
Wall Street Journal, and everything everywhere at different times, you could
hmm
say, has been talking about the phenomena, be it sort of financially, be it culturally. It's sort of just it seems to be getting everywhere, and there's been sort of the running joke online of studios are going to take the wrong message from Barbenheimer. But frankly, Tanner, part of the reason I'm excited to have this conversation with you and Petra is
Yes.
that
She's all over this conversation, of course.
is that I don't really know what the correct lesson to even take away from any of this truly is.
Lots of people, Abram, have been simplistically sort of saying that just, hey, put out two good movies. And while I would love that to be the case, that love that for be the to be the lesson that studios brought away from this, um, I think that it's probably more complex than that. I think it's probably just letting auteurs do their thing and creating not massively budgeted films, but solidly budgeted films. Both these are in the $100 million range, and also actually put effort into marketing them. There was obviously the I think the headline that came out today about how Warner Brothers implemented Operation Barbie, like Operation Warp Speed,
Yeah,
essentially.
like Barbie Summer or something they called it.
Exactly that. Where they started like, promoting this film in January, whereas the more common mode of marketing films around this time seems to be, I don't know, really ramp it up like 2 weeks before the movie comes out, and that just doesn't
Right.
work. You're gonna get more people hooked in if you put more effort and time into promoting these films, like they did with Barbie. And Barbie just had the benefit of having this massive marketing cycle, and to be coming out on the same day as Oppenheimer. And of course, Barbie is more of a financial success than Oppenheimer is right now, and
Right.
you can see why, because they put more effort into marketing that film in specific.
Yeah, but even Nolan, I think he did such a good job cultivating sort of a mystery around Oppenheimer, thinking back to the countdown clock, thinking back to that
Yeah.
very sparse first trailer we got, the teaser of it, barely a teaser, frankly, of just Oppenheimer in the hallway surrounded by the reporters. The mystique was there, but I think you're right that this is sort of a confluence of factors we saw. And Saw Patrol is not going to recreate it.
Try as they might. And yeah, that's the lesson that people have been saying. Like, what will studios learn?
Right.
Probably just to put out counter programming more. Which is, I'm a man who's obsessed with release dates.
Right.
As fans of BLB will know, and there are often movies that come out on the same day, but I wouldn't describe many of them as counter programming to one another. Saw Patrol is one of the more classic examples, I guess.
Right.
But a lot of times, like this weekend or in a coming weekend, we're having Gran Turismo and The Last Voyage of the Demeter coming out. And if you can give me two separate Venn diagram circles of who is the target audience for that, I will commend you. It's just kind of like willy-nilly putting these movies out. And I guess maybe they'll try to diversify them more on their release dates, which I don't know if that's a bad thing, but it's certainly not the lesson they should be taking.
I mean, I think it can't be sort of understated how powerful the online buzz for these films from the community level was. I mean, obviously Warner Brothers did a phenomenal job with Barbie. I think, was there a Barbie meal? Like the Spider-Verse burger? I don't know.
There was a Barbie everything, dude. I'm sure there was some sort of Barbie meal somewhere.
And the thing about it is that's all great, and they've been pushing it hard, and they got the right people involved, and they were talking about it for a long time. But there was also just the sicko fuckos like you and me who are using Letterboxd and who are talking about these films, because I think the key difference between Barbenheimer and Saw Patrol is that personally I want to see neither Paw Patrol nor Saw.
Well, I want to see one, and I will leave that up to the audience guess of which one I'm going to go see.
You actually are the one that, people might not know this, you were the first person to post that Paw Patrol clip saying it's like peak cinema of the dog jumping across the bridge. One? Yeah,
I'm glad that you recognize me for that, Abram. Yes, I still do believe that to this very day that animation is cinema, and that Paw Patrol is the height of it. You know.
Yeah, but the thing about it, on a serious note, is like, there was a contingent of people that were going to want to see both. You were going to want to see Barbie and Oppenheimer. The analog in games is when Animal Crossing and Doom came out on the same day, and even that is a case of such incredible divergence in taste that like it's a cute marketing moment. But Barbie Oppenheimer, ultimately, they are kind of two art films to a certain point.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
Barbie is
from two massive auteur directors. One has a greater reputation in Hollywood than the other because Christopher Nolan has had a longer career and is not a female director, as that is something that Greta Gerwig would be like as she's talked about how she wants to be like the big woman director, and it's sad that we have to have the woman director, but that's kind of just where we're at.
But I think they speak to a parallel enough audience. People are going to go see both. They're going to buy into the marketing moment, but it's also a fucking Barbie movie. And this is what I discounted. I was like, who wants to go see the Barbie movie? I was like, I don't think this appeals to kids. I think it's too adult for kids, and I think it's too goofy for a lot of adults. Who's going to see Barbie? The answer, it turns out, is everybody. I think that there's a sauce to both of these films that is kind of hard to replicate. And even Oppenheimer, people talk about it as this big 3-hour biopic, yada yada. But what
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of people talking about is that for a wide portion of mainstream audiences, this was their first time to see a big Christopher Nolan movie in theaters since Dunkirk. Because not
True.
many
Yes.
people saw Tenet.
No, that was kind of the whole reason that we're in this scenario right now where
Right.
Christopher Nolan kind of has a beef with Barbie and Warner Brothers, maybe.
It's very possible, but I also think that there is a component of priming people's proverbial pumps, excuse all the
Yes.
P's, of saying, man, Christopher Nolan's next movie, I can't miss it in the theater. I didn't see Tenet because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought I
yeah.
was going to die or whatever.
Yes, we all
And,
did.
and now people are ready to be back, and suddenly there might be a little bit of FOMO for people. There was
Yeah.
definitely, at least anecdotally on my end, like I didn't get to see Tenet in theaters, saying,
Hmm.
man, I saw Dunkirk in theaters. I missed Tenet. I want to be there for Oppenheimer. Because
Hmm.
I feel like on paper, Oppenheimer is a far more niche film than a lot of Christopher Nolan's recent outings. But it's his biggest non-Batman opening, if I'm
Yes,
correct about that.
you are correct in that regard. There's also been people saying like, "Oh, the memes helped so much." And Abram, what do you make of that? Do you think the memes helped at all in getting these films to the degree of success that they are now?
I do. I 100% do.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay.
I think that people are too quick to pat themselves on the back and take like this is like a grassroots effort. As you were saying very clearly, Warner Brothers
Hmm.
has largely to blame, but parentheses positive for the success of Barbie. But I don't think that there would be the excitement that there is here if people didn't buy into it. I don't. Part of me really, and maybe it's just a cynic in me, I don't think you can manufacture this level of excitement. I think
Yeah.
that part of it has to be genuine, and I think that genuine tenor is part of what has the radio station that my mom listens to when she's driving to work talking about Oppenheimer and Barbie
Yeah.
together. It's not that Warner Brothers put out a really good marketing campaign, it's that it became a sort of trendy topic for everybody, and everybody could get in on the meme. So
Yeah.
I don't think that in a world where this meme didn't exist, these films would do 60% worse, that it wouldn't be
Hmm.
the fourth highest grossing box office weekend of all time. But I don't think there'd be this degree of success if people were not actively engaged in propagating a narrative. It made people feel involved. I can't, there are not too many releases that I think make people feel like they are part of the narrative the way that this made you feel like you're a part of something. But Tanner, it doesn't seem to me like you are as sold on the meme component of the whole weekend.
No, not necessarily,
Sure.
because I don't know. Abram, I hate to be talking more about my 9 to 5 job, but I'm going to talk more about my 9 to 5
You talk
job.
more about your 9 to 5 job.
Because I have a wide variety of ages in my
Sure,
job
sure.
here. So I think that the younger people around my age, definitely saw the Barbenheimer memes. And one of my coworkers who graduated with me, actually just recently, went to go see the Wednesday night early preview that we had locally, and that really surprised me because she's not like a hardcore film fan like we
Right.
are, frankly. And to my understanding, like not a lot of people go to like those early screening stuff. I see the
Yeah.
seating charts and how sold out they are or not. But she went to go see that, and I'm sure that, like I said, that those people saw the memes. But I have to look at also my like maybe 60 plus coworker as well,
Sure.
who was aware of the Barbie movie coming out, and I don't know so much. Maybe he never talked about the Oppenheimer movie. He never talked about, but he was
Sure.
watching the Barbie trailer, and he mentioned how his wife was going to take 25 of her friends to see
25.
25. This is an elderly woman that I'm
Right.
talking about. 25 of her friends to go see Barbie opening weekend, and as far as I know, that she did. My coworker, it was not in work yesterday or today, but I think it's just the IP. It's the IP of Barbie.
Sure.
It's Abram, you were long talking about the last untapped IP that was the Super Mario Brothers
Yeah.
movie. And I think we've discovered another hidden well, despite all the computer generated stuff that has come out over the last however many years that was very niche and has really only been in the cultural consciousness of people like around our age.
Of girls around
who's
our age or younger.
girls around
Because
our
these are
age. Yeah,
just direct-to-DVD movies, basically all of
exactly,
them. Yeah.
precisely. But it is a massive IP. It's been around since 1959, so you have that inbuilt audience of, might I add, just a massive demographic shift in these opening weekend numbers towards women age 35 plus, which is not a demographic of people that goes to see movies, goes to see the movies the whole lot. And
Yeah.
that's why Barbie's doing so well, I feel. And yes, I think to a degree the memes may have helped push along the Oppenheimer narrative a little bit, but I don't want to
Yeah.
discount like the actual marketing work that was done in favor of Oppenheimer, because as soon as studios maybe learn the lesson that memes are how you get people in seats, as was the antithesis of the lesson of Morbius, then I think we're in for a real issue.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, and you were saying as well that there was a backbone to this whole campaign. There was, since last year, we've been seeing Oppenheimer countdowns, and there was a countdown clock running in the background the whole time, and
Yeah.
until when the bombs actually dropped at the anniversary of that in real life, and there was hype built by the studios and by the talent, but I think that was the foundation. That was the skeleton upon which Barbenheimer was built. It wasn't hollow. Because if you look at Morbius, and that's a great counterexample, but Morbius is a phenomenal example of people playing a joke.
Yes.
I think that that's a meme in the way that, like, the ironic shit that I laugh at that makes sense to nobody is a joke, right?
Okay, yeah.
I think that there was a real sense of earnestness to a lot of the Barbenheimer stuff, because a lot of it is people getting dressed up and excited to go to the theater.
Yeah.
And all that. And I think there's a difference between that and tricking Sony into thinking that you want to see Morbius. And I think that the harmony on a marketing angle, marketing in the broadest sense, was Warner Brothers and Universal distributed Oppenheimer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Between that, I still got to get used to Nolan's New Home. Between that and the community intersecting, both with, I think, the same objective. Morbius, people were they were at cross purposes. They were lying to each other. Everybody was lying to everybody else, and when it came to Morbius. But I think that there was a genuine want for people to see these films from the community's perspective, and I think that that's a key difference.
Yeah, I think it also helps that, I mean, both of these movies had massive word of mouth as well, and they're both like about something, which is not a kind of movie that we get nowadays, especially not movies that get 145 or 180 million dollar budgets. They are, as you said, Abram, art films essentially.
Yeah.
And if it's unfortunate that we have to say, oh, a movie is about something, that means it's basically an art film. But yeah, I mean, I think that certainly helped, that like these movies resonate with people after they see them. They tell their friends, they go to see them again, like I'm planning on going to do. I'm doing Barbenheimer round 2 this coming weekend.
Yeah, I think that's an important component. I think another important component, because the about something is an interesting notion, and I made a thread on Twitter to this effect of it being great that the highest grossing weekend this year is for a film that is about something in Barbie. And now you called it a sneak, but my second favorite film of the year still is Mario. But for the state of cinema as an artistic medium for being a vehicle for a message and a purpose, I'm much happier that Barbie is the highest grossing opening weekend than Mario.
Yes.
But there's a difference here between Barbie and Oppenheimer, because I've seen some people say that, oh, Barbie's feminism is intro level, and I think that the absolutely rancid discourse that has been happening online is an important component.
Oh, that's how you know movies. That's how you know a movie has healthy legs as well. Is if there's overwhelmingly positive just notions and reactions and reviews and just like thoughts on these movies. That is just sort of. And there's like a bubbling underbelly of just the worst possible takes you can have. And I'm not like, when I'm talking about Barbie, I'm talking about the worst takes being like it's anti-man or it's woke trash or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I exactly feel at liberty to be like, no, the critiques of Barbie's intro level feminism are unfounded, you know. But I think to a certain extent, like, was the Barbie movie ever going to be completely flawless feminist theory? I don't think so.
I don't think Mattel would have
But
let that happen.
no, probably not. Because and we can get into like our thoughts on the movie in specific later if we want to, but that is, if you watch our review at least, something a notion that both Tucker and I shared, especially about the ending of Barbie. But Abram, what are your thoughts on just the rancid takes that we have here?
Well, yeah, that's kind of part of what I was getting at, but then got so excited about just how awful these sort of TikTok screen grabs that people keep posting on Twitter are.
Yes.
Barbie, call it intro level or not, I don't really care, because ultimately that is a film that is designed as a blockbuster. And it's not going to take the time to sit down and sort of unpack a lot of the hierarchies that it's skewering, because ultimately it's got an hour and 50 minutes. It wants to get everybody into the theater, and we're not really going to, frankly, belabor the sort of points that Oppenheimer belabors, ultimately. Because Oppenheimer is a much, 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 much denser film than I expected it to be.
Absolutely, yes.
And it was interesting talking to my sister about it, because my she's very smart. She's 8, but she's 18 and she does not watch nearly as many films as I do. And it was really cool talking to her about everything she got out of the movie. And then for me to think about the fact that, like, Nolan put something this complicated in front of an audience as wide as everyone from my sister to my grandparents.
Yeah.
But the result of that is that there's a lot of people my sister's age who are not as smart as my sister and post things like, I can't believe that Oppenheimer is 3 hours of military propaganda with celebrity cameos every 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And it's interesting to me, and I think you're right, that it does show that these films are infiltrating a wide audience, that you even get to this point. Because the sort of person who is, let's call them inarticulate enough to make this statement on TikTok. It'll be kind. Inarticulate enough to make that kind of statement. It's not the sort of person you would expect is going to see fucking Oppenheimer. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. It's exactly that type of person, and maybe we were just like maybe shouting at crowds or doing a straw man or something. Clouds is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Old man shouting at clouds or doing a straw man, is exactly the kind of person who would not see the movie but say these things about it anyway.
Right.
But the numbers are showing us that maybe they are going to go see it.
Exactly. And
yeah.
I'm not trying to gatekeep that person from the movie. What I'm saying is it's exciting that people are going. That's ultimately the big takeaway from this weekend for me, is that I'm excited that people are going, that they are excited to see these movies. And somebody did raise the parallel of this being akin to the great Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker. There's what's the third film in that trifecta from 2019 that I'm forgetting? Irishman.
Okay, yeah.
Like we're in that sort of era of awful discourse right now.
Yeah.
And those are also, Joker is, I think, an interesting analog to something like Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And that while I hate Joker on a fundamental and personal level, and as much as I sort of feel like I hesitate to even say this when I'm not at gunpoint, Joker's also a movie about something, right?
It is, yes.
And I do like that these films are at least forcing people to think, even if they reach totally awful conclusions. Even if you have 900,000 YouTube subscribers and you still reach awful conclusions.
Yes, Abram, I agree.
Yeah.
Abram, I want to talk about the future a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we talk about, how great it is that all these people are going out to the movies. We've never seen theaters more packed than they are right now. It's amazing. It's so exciting as a film fan, as someone, me personally, who goes to see any movie in the theater that I possibly can. I love seeing movies in the theater. I love having a crowd around as well. As long as I can get those middle seats, as long as the crowd doesn't stop me from getting my seats precisely in the middle of the theater, I'm A-okay with it.
You poisoned me, by the way, because I switched. I was going Barbie Oppenheimer. I switched it, so I get a middle seat for Oppenheimer first. So.
Yeah. But thinking about it today, I was thinking up a sort of subtopic for this video on how Hollywood is failing movie fans, like new movie fans, or maybe sleeper cell movie fans who have been awakened by by Barbenheimer. And it's that, Abram, do you have any idea what the release calendar for the next coming months looks like?
I've got a kind of question. Does David Zaslav?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Um, while there are a lot of releases that are up in the air in terms of might they be delayed, especially when it comes to the ones that have potential to be good, the next like month or so is really fucking dire for movies. Let,
There's one that I'm looking forward to on a genuine level.
okay, Abram, let me run these down and
Yes.
let me tell you because these are the trailers that people are seeing
Yeah.
before Barbenheimer. Let me know if you think these movies sort of will spur on further interest in the cinematic form in the coming months.
Right.
This weekend, what we have coming out is Haunted Mansion, Disney's Haunted Mansion,
Mm-hmm.
and A24's Talk to Me, which
Right.
actually has been getting good reviews, but it is sort of like a horror movie, and those always do quite solidly, especially if it's an A24 horror movie.
Yeah.
After that, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
That's the one I'm excited about.
It's fair for the kids, sort of aiming at that Super Mario Brothers market again, maybe. Certainly not the market that's going out to see Oppenheimer and Barbie, that adult market that is so key to making a movie a success.
Yeah.
We also have The Last Voyage of the Demeter, Gran Turismo, Blue Beetle, Strays, The Equalizer 3, The Nun 2, A Haunting in Venice, The Expendables 4, Dumb Money, Saw X. That's up to the end of September.
There's a couple interesting things about this, Tanner.
Yeah.
The first is I think it's a great example of several films being just put out to die pointlessly. I think Haunted Mansion is a phenomenal example because Haunted
Agree.
Mansion cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
Hang on, let me pull up that budget. I think it's like 158 million from
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Hmm.
and it's not even being released in like October.
No.
I think this is a great example of no thought being put into your release, and even if it's not a film that is as substantive as maybe a Barbie or an Oppenheimer, there's also a great place for substanceless popcorn movies.
Yeah.
However, you can position those so they actually do well. You can do better than that. You can respect that your audience will come if you give them the film at the right time. The other thing that's really interesting about Barbie to me is that, as you're saying, there's been this great sort of, I don't hesitate to call it resurgence because we haven't really seen it, but this great support for, as you're saying, this older female demographic.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, there are also a lot of younger girls in my Barbie screening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like both teenage, but also sometimes younger, like middle school age girls as well. And I think that's great. And I think what it speaks to in part is that kids are excited to go to movies, but you got to give them something that is worth their time.
Yeah.
And I think that TMNT is a brand that is always skewed incredibly male.
Yeah.
Not to get stereotypical, but ultimately a lot of movie and analysis is predicated on like gendered stereotypes.
Yeah.
Which is, Barbie is whatever.
There's a reason that they gathered those opening weekend demographics. There's a reason.
But I think that what Hollywood needs to consider is that we need more films for everybody to go watch, but that aren't Marvel, because I just don't think that a superhero film has a 4-quadrant appeal the way that maybe it did at a point in time. You're wearing a Jaws shirt right now. Films like Jaws.
I had to celebrate the original summer blockbuster.
Right. And part of what made Jaws successful and Star Wars successful in films of that era is that they were properly 4-quadrant. And I think that Barbie, as we see, is obviously not that because it skews very female. It skews a little bit older. But I think it's evidence that that all of the pieces of the puzzle are out there. We just have to connect them. And I think sometimes films do connect them. Mario connected them in a lot more of a substanceless way. Top Gun connected them. You can bring everybody out, but nothing in the next month and a half is going to bring anybody out. Frankly, it's going to bring very few people out. It's going to bring you and me out.
Yeah,
it's going to bring Jean out because she's really excited about Gran Turismo.
Also, Gran Turismo, based on a true story, is apparently what the title they're going with is now.
Is it really?
I was looking at showtimes because I'm to get those middle seats. I'm an early pre-sale ticket buyer,
sure.
And all of the showtimes are entitled Gran Turismo: based on a true story.
That's so interesting. It's also just so interesting that Sony had this major success in The Last of Us, and frankly, a very good success in Uncharted. And now they're just kind of shitting out Gran Turismo and Twisted Metal.
And also, just weirdly, this is a side note. This is no longer about Barbenheimer. This is about
Right.
Gran Turismo for some reason. With their successes of The Last of Us and Uncharted, which embrace their video game roots to a certain extent, they're like really weirdly hell bent on selling Gran Turismo as like a based on a true story movie instead of a video game movie.
Right.
For some reason, even though the only surefire billion-dollar success of this year was a video game movie, but they're still like, no, divorce it from it's not about the video game, it's about the real story,
I just as one of the last sidebars we close out the Gran Turismo section of this video.
Yep.
I saw a tweet from Derpo3377 that I really liked.
Good source, yeah.
Elysium trailer from the director of District 9. Chappie trailer from the director of District 9. Demonic trailer, which I've never fucking heard of, from the director of District 9.
Really awful. That was a really awful straight-to-VOD movie from 2020, I think.
Fantastic. Well, he's back, and if you can believe it, it's not from the director of Demonic. It's from the director of District 9.
How long can Neil ride this wave? He's gonna ride it all the way into probably District 10, and then we're gonna get from the director of District 9 and 10. There's
gonna be a moment in time when everyone gets really paranoid about AI and they go back and watch Chappie just because they're like, hey, robot movie, and they're gonna realize, as I do, that Chappie is a great movie.
I've seen it. I cannot weigh in.
But Tanner, to bring it back on track a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
And talk about sort of the films themselves, Barbie, Oppenheimer, a little bit.
Absolutely, let's do it.
I think you really are right in drawing into comparison sort of the upcoming slate, and the upcoming slate being devoid of things that people can sink their teeth into. Because I think you really can sink your teeth into Oppenheimer and Barbie. I think they're the sort of films that ask you to rewatch. I think they're the sort of films that ask you to kind of do the meme going around on Twitter of the lean in.
Yes.
The guy leaning in. And I think that's really nice, and I think that's kind of another component that's sort of missing. Like the last film that I saw with my sister was Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Before Barbie Oppenheimer, it's like, what do either of us have to talk about on the way home after Transformers: Rise of the Beasts?
The prospect of the G.I. Joe crossover, of course, Abram.
Tanner, that's a great point. That actually, to me, is as stimulating as what is in Oppenheimer. But I think it's nice that Oppenheimer says, well, we're going to make this big film that's 3 hours long, but it's not going to have major action sequences. And I don't even just mean that in like they're going to break out into like a fist fight in the middle of the film. But like the Trinity test is maybe the only moment of like visual spectacle or action in the film.
Yeah.
And I think that's very interesting. And I think it's a great sign that that's sort of film that captivates people's attention because it got an A cinema score. And that's a big deal. You would think, because if you are to believe a certain YouTuber who is drumming up this notion that a lot of people are bored by Oppenheimer, you would think that cinema score would be lower. But I think people are really interested in digging into what the film is doing and how it's operating. And I think that's really great.
Yeah. I think it's also important that you bring up spectacle, and this is a point I forgot to bring up in our box office conversation and our marketing conversation, but it's really sold on, Oppenheimer was very much sold on, see it on the biggest screen you can. That was a phrase that we used a lot in the marketing. Big text at the end of every trailer we saw as a pre-roll trailer before a movie was filmed with IMAX cameras, and it just gets that IMAX thing ingrained into your brain, despite the fact that many theaters in the United States are not actually IMAX, as I learned to my chagrin in the lead up to Oppenheimer. But yeah, I mean, do we want to get into our thoughts on like the films themselves? Do we want to do like a mini review here? Is that what we're sort of dancing around?
Let's do a mini review, because you guys did your proper review. I don't want to belabor that point a whole ton, because I also want to talk a little bit about these films as sort of like the awards paradigm that might be forming.
I'd love to do that.
I would love so much.
But Abram, before we do that, maybe as an interesting sort of challenge to us as we talk about these is let's find ways in which the appeal of them overlap.
Yeah.
I guess, in which our praise of them overlap. One of those that just jumped out to me, and the reason why I posed this challenge so I can take it before you
Okay.
can, is the massive supporting cast that
Yeah.
are all served very, very well, very, very well by the runtime. I mean, you in both films you can be like,
Yeah.
oh, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite like bit character? Who's your favorite supporting character? And there's so many different ones you can choose from, and so yeah. I think that's also helped that you can just like list the names of all your movie stars in your trailer. I think that's something that I really enjoyed about both Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I mean the casts of both films are exceptional. I have to say that I was probably a little bit more impressed by the Oppenheimer cast just because I think I had less of a sense of who was in the film. Partially because to talk again, just to connect things back to marketing for a second, Barbie did such an incredible job of telling you who's in the movie and releasing those great he just can and I'm Barbie and everything posters.
Yes,
Whenever
yes,
they did, I guess that was way earlier this year.
that was quite a bit earlier. Yeah.
It was such a fantastic surprise seeing Casey Affleck show up as just a Weasley little dickhead. Casey Affleck,
Yes.
that's what he should be doing these days. He should be a Weasley
Yeah.
little dickhead. He should be a kind of, he should be a boyish man who ends up being fucking nefarious. And I think that he's used perfectly in this film. Seeing Rami Malek pop up and then sort of dip away and then come back at a pivotal moment. Alden Ehrenreich is fantastic in the film. I think Alden Ehrenreich gives one of the best performances in Oppenheimer,
He
frankly.
has to go up against Robert Downey Jr., who is giving like his best performance. Sorry, Marvel fans, his best performance in like 15 years, maybe ever. Actually, no, I'll say ever.
It is interesting seeing him talk about how he was afraid that he forgot how to act after doing
Yes.
Iron Man for so long, which I do think also does. And funnily enough, we also saw this with The Flash, because I think that people like Michael Shannon are just so fucking mad about The Flash even existing that they don't care about what they say anymore. But there is also, at the same time that Oppenheimer and Barbie are so successful, and we have like Blue Beetle projected, Blue Beetle's projections at like 15 million opening weekend, we also have a lot of talent saying that it kind of sucks making superhero movies. I think that is interesting.
Yes.
But you're totally right. Our RDJ kills it, but Alden Ehrenreich stands up to him, I think, very well. I think that the film is sort of a testament to what happens when you have a really, 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 really good director behind the camera, navigating through these scenes, and you feel very comfortable working against incredibly big names. And I have to say, Tanner, I've always been a little bit, and I'm going to say his name wrong. Is Cillian Murphy Cillian Murphy?
I think I've always said Cillian. I'm under the impression it's Cillian Murphy.
Okay, Cillian Murphy. I've always found him to be a little bit like Weasley.
Okay.
Just in his performances, I've never been crazy about him. And frankly, that's usually the part he plays. He's usually this kind of
He's usually a Weasley man.
He's usually a Weasley man. But here he gives such an astoundingly dynamic performance, and it's restraint because he's very metered throughout most of the film. But he says a lot with his face, and Nolan makes sure that the camera is close enough for you to capture all of it. But then when he has to cut loose, in like the moment after he finds out that Jean has committed suicide, and he's shaking under that big rock, I'm like, God damn, this is a man who's giving everything to a performance.
Yeah. I mean, we do the classic physical transformation where apparently he was down to like an almond a day, or that's what like Emily Blunt or someone said about his like diet to prepare for this like haggard role where he has to look like basically a walking skeleton who has just weighed down by the actions that he will do or has done. Cillian Murphy is absolutely fantastic.
If I may, Tanner,
go for it.
If make another connection here.
Yeah, okay.
Over to the Barbie side.
Yes.
Committed performances, I think, what make both films work.
Yes.
I really do think that Ryan Gosling steals Barbie. I think he just runs away with it. Now, I do think Margot Robbie is excellent in the film, too, not to discredit her performance. But I think that, and it kind of goes into my larger enjoyment of Barbie and its sort of intentional and gleeful subversion of a lot of like gendered stereotypes. Now, I wouldn't say that Ryan Gosling is maybe the most archetypally masculine man in the world. How
But at the same time, I think Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach both sort of well, I'll give the credit to Greta Gerwig because she is the director here, but it's also the Gerwig Baumbach duo in the
yeah.
writing as well. She got him as like she's very she's I think she's an online sort of person. She's maybe not like active on Twitter or anything,
Yeah.
but she is certainly aware, as Gosling is likely, of this literally me sort of meme surrounding Ryan Gosling
Yeah.
between films like Drive and to your credit, A Place Beyond the Pines and stuff like
Film I
that,
love. Yes.
and Blade Runner 2049.
Officer
How
K,
there is
of
this
course.
like depressed masculinity that has surrounded Ryan Gosling.
That's a great point. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no doubt that he does play that part very well.
Hmm.
Even if we want to get Place Beyond the Pines core and go even further into like weird, like sicko cinema,
Yes,
like Only God Forgives and things,
yes,
where he's a proper degenerate, in a proper degenerate film. Um, you're right. He plays that well, but I think that there's this like stereotypically heterosexual ladies man quality about Ryan Gosling on the whole.
yeah.
Um,
That's kind of where his career started, frankly. Yeah.
yeah, but I think that he's and Margot Robbie even said something to the effect in the interview of like you have to be very confident in your masculinity to do the role of this Ken the way that Ryan Gosling did. And
Hmm.
I think he really does just absolutely kill it. And I could see my audience responding to it. My audience was excitable throughout the entire film. But what really got them is when when we sort of do that transition into that like colorful void area and everybody's in
Yes.
like
Well,
the
we're doing like a singing in the rain, and they're in like the
like
grease outfits and stuff like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And then he does his first dance move and the entire audience like flipped out.
Yes.
I think that he plays this beautiful idiot who just got hit on the head with a frying pan role in
Hmm.
Barbie so well. And he takes, frankly, what is sometimes maybe jarringly unsubtle comedic material and makes it work. Like Casa Macho Casa Mucho House, whatever the line is.
Uh, Casa Mojo Dojo or
Ca-
Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Mojo
That's the
Dojo Casa
one.
House. I don't think is
Uh-huh.
a great line in context, and I think it's been immediately pillared by all the fucking
It has
stupid
been
memes online.
memed. Yeah.
But I think Gosling sells things like that. I think he's exceptional, and I think that the extent to which the actors across both films believed in the role and believed in the material they were given is really exceptional.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Abram, since you did Ryan Gosling, I have to do Margot Robbie
Yeah,
because all these people, and I'm not saying this about you, Abram, but maybe I am. They're talking about how women have to be over the top spectacular to get attention. That's sort of like the thing
I
in
see.
Barbie, and I feel like a lot of people have been noting online that a lot of the love for Ryan Gosling sort of falls into that same
Okay,
criticism that the Barbie
okay.
movie levies. And as you said, Margot Robbie is fucking fantastic in the movie. She just doesn't maybe get her flowers as much as Ryan Gosling does because he's able to clown around and dance and do all this nonsense where Margot Robbie has to be more of a uh, pardon the term, but a comedic straight man
Yeah,
in this sense, where Ken is a lot of times bouncing something ridiculous off of her. Um, but she gets her time as well, and particularly she gets her times to sell the emotional side of
yeah,
Barbie, which is what makes it so unique. Um, any iteration of the Barbie movie in the past was always going to be a comedy, but it was only Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie with Margot Robbie in that starring role that was going to be able to sell the societal sort of damnation and cognitive dissonance of being a woman that makes Barbie so special. It is making it resonate with people and is getting people out to the theater, people of, the 35-year-old plus women demographic and young women in particular as well. That's the content of the movie that is getting people out of the theater, and Margot Robbie sells it. That's the real reason. When
yeah.
we're doing close-ups on her face, and she is crying, and she's frightened that she's not good enough, and what she doesn't know what her purpose is in life anymore. If she since this whole idea of her being this feminist girl boss icon has been torn down and complicated by the realities of the real world, she sells that. And then we have that final conversation with her inventor essentially. up and through the final joke of the movie, which she also sells, is just an encapsulation of like the range that Margot Robbie has in
Right.
that Barbie role. And might I add, if people are talking about Ryan Gosling going to get that supporting actor nomination, Margot Robbie needs to be right there alongside of him, leading the charge, I think. It's her movie. She's the star.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that Barbie works so well is because Barbie has a sense of earnestness about it, and that's because I think sort of the what tempers like cuddly unhinged that Ryan Gosling exhibits is the emotional depth that frankly his role doesn't allow for, that Margot Robbie brings.
Yeah.
Because I think you're totally right. She sells the gynecology line brilliantly. She sells the like rigid appendaged Barbie lying on the
Yes.
ground and rolling over joke very well. But she maybe does her best work in the film when she's sitting down at the bus stop and just tells that woman, "You are beautiful," or is meeting America Ferrera's daughter for the first time, and it just sort of the crestfallen look that is compounded on her face as she's just getting torn into for what Barbie represents. It's not much material, but it's great.
Yeah, I also love the ensuing joke there, which is just, again, another microcosm of the range that Robbie has in this role, where she's like, I'm not a fascist. I don't control the trains. Which is, I don't know if that's a Gerwig joke or a Baumbach joke, but whoever it is, it's fucking great.
Yeah, and to me, that's why Barbie works, because Barbie is not just... It's not just big, loud satire the entire time. It's satire, big, loud satire a lot of the time, but you have Margot Robbie...
Yeah, you have like screwball comedy in there as well.
You have her at the center of it to bring a little bit more meaning. And I mean, we've talked about meaning a lot, but I think it's also worth noting that these are very left-wing films, both of them.
Yes,
and
very, well, Abram, I think you're wrong, because Barbie is obviously very woke, and Oppenheimer is, of course, not woke at all.
This and this is part of why, because I did see the TikTok post of the guy rating Oppenheimer on the wokeometer. I did see that.
Yes.
0 to 5 woke or whatever. It's part of why I take so much glee in the conservative response to these films.
Yes.
Because I would probably make the argument that in some ways Oppenheimer is maybe more woke than Barbie.
Okay. I've yet to see... I wonder if there hasn't been that response to it because it's just too complicated for them to understand. I mean, that's certainly the case.
I mean,
whatever the case may be, if they see it, they're not going to get it. And how this film is sort of directly tapped into thematically this notion of that we're dealing with right now of science and ideology, and can science exist without ideology? And I think that was something that just will go over a lot of this woke or not woke crowd's heads.
Yeah, because I think I have not... Tanner, if you can believe it, I have not watched the 45-minute Ben Shapiro Barbie review.
I can't believe it, neither have I.
I will say I do have the Hassan Piker reaction to the Ben Shapiro Barbie review queued up. However, I think the reason why Barbie is catching so much ire is because I think that it is a much more like practically empowering leftist film, and because for as much as Barbie has a lot to say about like gender roles, if you can believe it, I think one of the strongest messages of Barbie also is this notion that's really explored in the last couple minutes of the film most clearly, this notion of excellence not being a prerequisite for like fulfillment in some way.
Yeah.
And that's a very sort of anti-conservative American bootstrapping idea.
Like it's anti-meritocracy is what it is.
Yeah, and so I think that Barbie presents a more open challenge to a lot of right-wing ideas. Partially, as I was saying before, because it is a blockbuster, and I think it knows it has a younger audience. And as somebody rightly pointed out on Twitter, maybe we do need just an intro to feminism for a lot of people in general
That's a fantastic point. And whereas Oppenheimer is sort of on the other side of this sort of left-wing messaging, where it is like more tapped into historical stuff, whereas Barbie is much more societal and cultural critique.
Yeah,
Oppenheimer is historical left-wing critique, I think, for sure.
Yeah, it's. I was having a conversation with Jean about this scene that I think Grace Randolph has very prescient thoughts on,
Mm,
where Oppenheimer meets with Truman.
yes.
And there's the line where Oppenheimer is like, I think we should give the land back to Native Americans.
And
Uh,
then it's just a dead silence after that. And then there's like, we were gonna make it into a museum.
yeah, and it's and Jean was like, well, I feel like they're raising this idea about like giving back the land, but it's not really explored. I think what's so amazing about Oppenheimer is that for as dense and talky as it is, what's left
Mhm.
unsaid and left not shown is maybe what's most condemnatory in the entire narrative. And that scene is a great example of these sort of tacit ways that Nolan is talking about colonial ideas, talking
Yeah.
about this sense of conquer, not Conquer, the badmouth mascot from Rare from the 90s, Conquer. Uh, just thought I should specify.
I'd love him to talk about Conquer in his next film, though.
um,
Maybe an adaptation of Conquer's Bad Fur Day for
right.
Nolan's next film.
I just think that the film is dense in its subtleism, to use a Quest word.
Hmm.
Um, the I don't, and I pride myself on not really know what the Bechdel test is.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the film's inability to pass a lot of these metrics is sort of a great example of how people really aren't equipped to grapple with a lot of bad people at the center of films, especially not people like
Hmm.
Oppenheimer that I think are in this sort of subjective objective dual lens that Nolan takes, presented as both a hero and sort of obviously, if you synthesize all the pieces of the film,
Uh-huh.
a major shithead.
Oh
This
yeah,
this
absolutely.
this film has so many shades to it that I think all overlap to form the same color, but people seem
Hmm.
to be taking it in weird ways, which in some ways I think you can say, oh, they're dumb. But I think the more prescient thing to what you're saying about sort of
Hmm.
what Hollywood is feeding people otherwise is there's not a lot of films that ask you to wrestle with a character like
The
Oppenheimer.
modern audience just is not equipped to handle the themes and like actually critique these kind of movies, I think.
No, I don't think so. And that's not like, and again, that's not a gatekeeping sentiment. It's a condemnation of the fact that Hollywood doesn't give them anything to do that with.
Exactly. When we do get into the award season side of things,
Yeah.
those films, and not all of them are always like think abouty movies. They are shoved into limited release and in maybe wide release for a week or two before they're shoved out by a Star Wars or
Right.
something of that. Or I guess this year like a Wonka or a Untitled Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel. Uh, and that's an issue. And I think if we are to take a lesson away from this, I hope that we can sort of bolster these kind of movies a little bit more. But to circle back to the Oppenheimer conversation and like of hit, just the thing of like this thing that we always have to do when we have a complex protagonist in a movie of like some people apparently thinking that it's always like depiction equals like oh god,
Endorsement.
what is it? Endorsement,
Endorsement.
thank you. And we just have to roll out the same thing as like, no, you can have a bad person be the main character of a film. I just can't think of any way of seeing Oppenheimer and thinking of the notion that Christopher Nolan wants me to think that Oppenheimer was an American hero, or Christopher Nolan is a big fan of the military industrial complex around this time.
The weird what people are latching onto, which I think is only a fair point if your line of thinking ends with this plot point, but the
Hmm.
kind of viewing what Rami Malek says in the courtroom about
Hmm.
Strauss as sort of like emancipatory of like the charges being placed on Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Like, no, this whole thing is a sham that Strauss is brought on because
Yeah,
he
like there can
hates.
only be one bad guy, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this. I think what people are latching onto incorrectly is this idea that like what the film is saying at the end is like everything that happened to Oppenheimer after he built the bomb was unjustified.
Yeah, yeah. Everything that happened to Oppenheimer after he built the bomb was unjustified and the direct result of this evil, conniving Strauss. Excuse me.
But also, McCarthyism is good, actually.
But because he deserved to. The Grace Randolph thing was that he deserved to lose his security clearance because he had ties to the Communist Party. So they were okay. So it was good that they took it away. Actually,
Yeah, I just think that I think that it's a film, as I was saying before, it's a much denser film than I anticipated because so many things are true at the same time. Oppenheimer was fucked in that back room, like,
Mhm.
quote unquote court case. I
Yeah.
mean, they make multiple like just statements to the effect of it's not a courtroom.
Well, he was fucked in a number of ways, Abram. If you watch the film.
Uh, in the United States of America, yes, I believe in some countries that's not true.
Oh well, yeah, that's a good point actually. Do you think is she still wearing the black dress in that sequence as well, or did they just cut that?
I think they put a big black rectangle over both of them.
Oh, I see. They just like why is there a black rectangle in that chair instead of where Cillian Murphy was? Uh, anyway,
Yeah.
well,
Ultimately, the bottom line is that I like that Oppenheimer is such a complicated film. And
absolutely.
if we can transition into the awards chatter a little bit to
Mhm.
mention Grace Randolph again, Grace Randolph put out a very interesting Twitter poll
I don't know if. Oh, okay, okay.
asking whether or not the lack of the display of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are going to hurt the film's Oscar chances.
I see. I see. I
Now,
see.
now, I would prefer to not even give any credence to this point of conversation.
Notion.
However, I think it is a good segue and also just a chance for me to bring up the last sort of technical thing about the film I really want to talk about,
Yeah, go for it.
which is the ways, for as much as it is a film that sort of depicts evil through absence, it also uses concrete images sparingly and very horrifyingly. We don't see the bombing because not seeing the bombing says more about the sort of American political military machine than seeing the bombing does.
And also Oppenheimer's mind state, as many people have
Yeah.
pointed out in contention to that talking point. J. Robert Oppenheimer historically never apologized and never
Right.
showed remorse for the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So he clearly didn't feel bad about it, and so if we are showing this subjective view of his view of these events, these historical events, it wouldn't make sense to show them as this horrible act of genocide, essentially that it was. It makes much more sense to show the banality of evil. I think, in that
Yeah.
that White House decision room where the statement about Kyoto was made, and just he heard about it over the radio. He never received a call when the bombs dropped. He heard about it when everyone else did. So yeah, that's why the decision works.
I also think that it just I feel like an intro to film student every time I bring up the whole "it's impossible to make an anti-war film" quote from
Yeah,
Truffaut, but
Yes.
I think that this does work as a profound anti-war statement in that there is literally no spectacle to attach yourself to. You
Right.
know, because I mean, the Trinity test, for instance, is an amazing moment of filmmaking and how they
Right.
actually orchestrated the explosion, and it is an incredible series of images.
Mhm.
If we saw that level of practical filmmaking depicting the bombing of Hiroshima, it would be, and I'm not trying to be twisted about this, it would be amazing.
Mhm.
Like, that would be an amazing feat of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I think that it would undercut the notions that the film is going for and
Yeah.
kind of feed into this idea that spectacle in some way in war film is like a celebration of war in a
It's
way.
revelatory. The spectacle would always be revelatory, and you
It's not.
don't want to revel in that, obviously.
And the only time we do sort of revel in imagery is the very haunting moments of Oppenheimer stepping into the charred, bombed corpse and chest
Yeah,
caving in
yeah.
like firefighter 9/11.
I knew as soon as he said the chest caving in, I was like, he's gonna bring up the fucking 911 thing, isn't he? And he did. You did, Abram.
But also,
did.
I did. But on a serious note, just like incredibly unsettling, harsh lighting as
Mhm.
Oppenheimer is thinking about the whiteness after the explosion, as he's being.
Dude, when Jason Clark is fucking screaming at him and the room is
Yeah,
shaking and we are like we are turning up the exposure on this room.
it's crazy.
Come on, it's
Or
crazy.
or just when he's giving the speech, talking about awards.
Yeah.
This is edited. I think editing has editing easily.
Yes, yes, yes.
The moment as he's delivering the post bomb speech and the audio cuts out and you just see people screaming, but you can't hear them, screaming in excitement that we dropped the bomb. And if only we
Hmm.
had the bomb earlier, so we could have dropped it on Germany too. And the crowd erupts, but it's silent, and you just see
Yeah.
that woman's face peeling away. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is an exceptional level of filmic storytelling. So that was incredible. I think I've given sort of my high level points about both films, and to
Yep.
that effect, I do think that Oppenheimer has most of the tech categories kind of nailed down.
Especially, dude, if Dune doesn't come, if Dune does come out, what are we gonna do? What is the Academy going to do with these tech categories? Um, yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. If think about production design for a second, because that
Yeah,
is a strength. That is going to be a strength of all three of these movies is production design.
right.
Three of these movies talking about Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Dune Part Two. If
Yeah,
that does end up not being delayed by Warner Brothers, but crazy, crazy stuff here. So and let's talk about awards. I love doing this.
yeah. Talk about
Okay,
awards.
so would you throw up any flags if I said that both of these movies are going to be in Best Picture?
Um, no, I
Okay.
think that Barbie's chances are worse than Oppenheimer's of getting into Best
I
Picture.
I would agree. I would agree, but um even so, I had Barbie at maybe like number 10 weeks or months before it came out, and now I think I would bump it up pretty substantially.
Yeah,
I mean, essentially what we have here is a summer blockbuster,
yeah.
probably going to be uh, will probably be the biggest like what's the word, gross success, like budget
But
against actual profit.
sure, yeah,
Net.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It would,
Net success.
yeah. Net
Net
profit.
success.
Profit is what that is. Biggest
Yes.
profit. They'll make the biggest profit on
Big
this film.
most profitable movie that comes out
Yeah.
this year, most likely. It is a massive crowd pleaser. Critics and audiences alike love this thing. It's got a big star that the Academy likes at its forefront. It's from a director that they like.
Nominated for both of our films.
Yeah, exactly. Nominated for Best Picture nominations for both of her films. I don't see why the Academy would not nominate Barbie in Best Picture. I don't see why.
Yeah, it might be just me being doomerish, the same way I was
It
doomerish.
is like a poppy comedy, which they don't
Yeah.
usually go for. If they go for a comedy, they might do something like Licorice Pizza or Don't Look Up. Or actually, Don't Look Up is a bit poppy as well. So,
Well, don't look up is a fucking hack movie too, so that's a
well,
whole
that's
different can
fair.
of worms.
But if
I
we're talking about movies like comedies that have been nominated for
that's a
Best
great sure.
Picture, there is precedent. There's like at least one every year.
And I think there probably also is some sort of precedent when you look at Top Gun Maverick and Avatar: Way of Water both being nominated
Hmm.
for Best Picture and both being comparatively substanceless. Even though Avatar: Way of Water is one of the great works of of pro eco terrorism filmmaking,
Yes.
uh, as much as everybody would like to deny that fact, I
Yes.
I think that you're right. I don't. I think I would just I'd throw up a whoo. I hope Barbie makes it into Best Picture, but I
Okay.
wouldn't throw up a red on it. I would not throw the red up on it.
Okay. Okay. And by that metric, like director as well potentially, if we're talking down
Yeah.
that road.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people saying Cillian Murphy is a lock for best actor. I would agree as of
Who's
this
the big
point.
competition for that?
Um, uh,
Leo.
Coleman Leo in Killers of the Flower Moon, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, which is a Netflix biopic civil rights movie that's coming out later
Okay.
this year. Um, oh God, I just had one. Oh, I'm gonna be kicking myself over the fact that I can't think of this. Oh man. Bradley Cooper, Maestro, another biopic thing.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of biopic people actually this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think part, and I'm a big Zoe Rose Bryant fan, so I'm early Oscar pilled in general.
Yes.
I do think that a lot of these categories are a little bit too soon to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that he's a lock. I would say that he's definitely a front runner. I would say
Okay.
he's definitely
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Oh,
category.
yeah. I meant lock for the category
For the
for sure.
category,
And
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe like a Paul Giamatti in there as well for the holdovers. You get that trailer?
I did not get the holdovers trailer.
Oh, okay. It's a bit of a fun one. It's a throwback to like 80s comedies where it's got like these guys are locked in a school and they're having a tough time.
Do you think that the role of Hercule Poirot could pick up a leading actor nomination?
I don't know, but maybe the role of Niels Bohr could.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe.
Can I just say, by the way, Benny,
Yes.
keep directing. Now, he's not bad in Oppenheimer. I'm not saying that Benny Safdie is bad in Oppenheimer.
Oh, I see what you
I'm
mean.
just
Okay.
saying that when you make Good Time and you make Uncut Gems, you can't just let your brother run away with the directing thing. You guys got to stay together.
Maybe he's doing most of the work. Maybe Josh is doing most of the work anyway.
Maybe we'll see. All
Maybe.
I'm saying is
Yeah.
don't fuck up a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a good thing coming with this next Adam Sandler Ben Affleck project. It sounds
Can't
really
wait for that.
it sounds very intriguing. Abram, was there any avenue of awards that you wanted to talk about in particular? Because like just looking at it, like yeah, definitely picture for both of these. Best director, I think, is definitely a possibility for both of these. Margot Robbie damn well should be in lead actress. Cillian Murphy damn well should be an actor. Supporting actor for both of these with. I mean, we might have RDJ v Ryan Gosling here, frankly.
Yeah, I think that Margot Robbie really could get the nomination, deserves it. I don't think she will win.
No, yeah.
I hate to say it, but I do not know the name of the lead actress from Past Lives. But
Greta Lee.
Greta Lee, I think, as of right now, I mean, I would say that's a better performance between the two.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Margot can go the distance.
One thing I did want to bring up,
Yeah.
and this is, I saw a Variety article to this effect last
Sure.
night, and it got my gears a turning, and I was ranting about it to my girlfriend Anna, who really couldn't reciprocate because she didn't know a lot of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But screenplay for Barbie, where does it go? Original or adapted?
Oh, I think that they would probably put it in adapted.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a wiggle room to make for them to make a campaign? Because I feel like if you're the
It's I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made for both. I think the stronger argument is probably adapted.
you got to think about Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
That was up for adapted screenplay.
Yeah, well, because it's a sequel, and a lot of times what the Academy does is
Yeah.
they're big on like characters. Are these original characters?
That's the Top Gun point. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the Top Gun point. At the beginning of Barbie, it says based on the toy by Mattel.
Yeah.
Now, we don't really know that there's never really been precedent for this. The closest thing, this is from the Variety article,
Yeah.
is Toy Story in 1995. Obviously, main players, Woody and Buzz, are original characters, but there is like Mr. Potato Head and Etch-a-Sketch and
was
whatnot.
that up for a screenplay nomination?
That was nominated in original screenplay.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that the Academy buckets so many things into adapted that there's a better chance of getting snuck into adapted than it is getting into original.
Yeah.
Especially because even if you think of the Toy Story analog, the licensed characters in Toy Story are like C tier characters for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Potato Head and Slinky Dog and like Wheezy Penguin. Actually, Wheezy Penguin might be an original character. I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Right in. Let us know who invented Wheezy Penguin.
Did you have a Wheezy Penguin growing up? Pre 1995, pre Toy Story.
I think the bigger thing though, Tanner, is if they can wiggle it for original, they should. Because I don't think that Barbie has a prayer in adapted screenplay.
Adapted screenplay this year is going to have Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, adapted from the novel American Prometheus.
Yeah.
It's going to have Dune Part 2, and also maybe like The Color Purple as well. So that's a steep 5 for
And
Barbie to
Wonka.
fight up against. And that's true. Wonka would be adapted, I think,
Flip it,
from that metric.
reverse it.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Flip it, reverse it. It has the better shot in original for sure. Original is a much looser, less competition category
Well, that's
this
the thing,
year.
because it's harder to get the Academy to say that it's an original screenplay than it is an adapted screenplay.
Exactly.
They'll take any reason to put it into adapted
But like
screenplay.
at the same time, could you make the argument that Barbie is not a pre-existing character? She's a toy, not a character?
No, I don't think you can make that argument.
You don't think you could make that argument?
No, because they talk about Barbie's. Tanner, I can't pretend to be super up on the lore of Barbie, but
Okay.
isn't Margot Robbie? She calls herself like like the regular girly classic Barbie archetype thingy.
Stereotypical Barbie.
I feel like stereotypical Barbie is probably just another name for the Barbie that's you see on top of all the adverts, right?
But here's the thing, Abram. That is, I don't know if that's a character. I think it's like
It's a notion.
it's a cultural concept.
Do you, but the aesthetic. I'm sure that she's wearing costumes that are representative of actual Barbie toys.
Yes, but is a toy a character?
Is Mario a character? Does the Super Mario movie
Have a chance in
belong
an original
in
screenplay.
original screenplay?
Yes, because I think Mario has been part of narratives before. And to be fair, so has Barbie,
But
because like the
Barbie's also
computer
in
animated
part.
movies.
If
It'll probably have to be adapted.
it'll have to be adapted because Tanner, the book Killers of the Flower Moon was a book.
Uh-huh.
Barbie's been
Correct.
in stories in transmedia formats before. I
Yeah.
I I say this often. You can come to my house and beat me over the head with a tire iron if you can prove definitively that this incarnation of Barbie has never appeared in a single Barbie toy line, book,
Uh-huh.
or DVD movie.
I think the real damnation is the fact that it's at the beginning of the movie. It says based on the toy by Mattel.
Yeah.
I think that's an admission right there. Frankly.
I think so.
Yeah. So I don't even know if it'll get into it, if it'll get a screenplay now.
I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I gave both these films 5 stars. I feel like
Yeah.
on a rewatch, my score for Barbie would probably be a little bit lower. I think I bought
Okay.
into the hype. Now, Letterboxd is all about buying into the hype.
Of course.
That's all it's there for, really.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
Like Spider-Verse is in the top, 5 most
Seven. It's number 7 right now,
number
I think.
Yeah, of course.
Both Barbie and Oppenheimer are also in that top 250.
Of course.
Barbie's like number 206 and Oppenheimer's like number 75, I want to say.
I just don't think that the Barbie script, if I were to watch again, would be as bulletproof as it felt in the moment.
Sure.
I just don't think that the script is nearly as good as the ambiance and the vibes and the themes. Now, the script is still great in what it conveys, and I think there's a lot of stuff there, but it kind of, I don't think the script is as precise as like the Lady Bird script, which I think is exceptional, for instance.
Well, Abram,
Yeah.
we'll have the chance to talk about both of these films in what is that, about 10 months?
10 months.
10 months.
Almost time for award season.
It's almost time for award season. That's why everyone's talking about it so much. But no, I think we both agree that both these films will be in Best Picture. I certainly hope so. Certainly hope they will be, so we can talk about them both in depth again, because I love talking about these movies. I love reviewing them. I love talking about the ancillary things like the marketing and the who's, what's it, and the what nows and the bad takes that surrounding all these things.
Can I pause it? I just want to pause it. One more question for you, Tanner.
Okay, here we go.
Last question. So wrapping up.
Okay.
Because you're a man of awards, you're a man of film analysis, but you're also a man of financials.
Okay, yes.
Are we hitting the Barbillion?
Abram, I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked, Abram, because I was going to bring this up, but I forgot. I was so caught up in the wrap up, I forgot.
Right.
Currently, it is tracking to where Mario tracked. The only movie this year that has made $1 billion. It is on pace with Mario. And this is, to be fair, this is in like the first 3-4 days of release. So it's got a long track ahead of it.
Yeah.
But it also, as of tonight, night of recording, will cross $400 million, most likely.
Also had a big Monday.
It had the
big
like,
Monday.
The 6th largest Monday, I want to say, all time.
And the biggest Monday for Warner Brothers since The Dark Knight, I believe.
Exactly. Dark Knight, $1 billion picture, mind you. I we talked about the coming weeks of release. I don't think either of these movies have a lot of big competition. So yeah, I think that we are gonna hit $1 billion. If we're nearly halfway there, less than a week into release, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I was just so dead wrong about this film's box office performance. I just didn't know if I just didn't see the appeal there. I thought it was trying to split too many hairs, but I was totally
Yeah,
wrong. And
yeah,
I was early to the Mario $1 billion claim. I'm
it's true.
late.
You were very early on.
I was
First
very
trailer dropped, you were there.
Yeah, I was there for that one. I'll be late to this and agree with you. I
Yeah,
think it'll make a
yeah.
billion. The big question, of course, is does Sound of Freedom ever get a week over Oppenheimer?
I don't think so. I think the Sound of Freedom train is slowing down. Hopefully, God, I hope.
Sadly, it claimed the life of Dead
Mission
Reckoning's
Impossible. Yeah,
second week
that's
box
tough.
office, which I booed the Sound of Freedom marquee in my theater when I walked by, and then Jean and my sister asked me to explain what I was doing. I said, I'll tell you later. And then I told
Yeah,
them, I filled them in on
what
the whole
happened?
situation.
That'll do it. Thank you so much for watching our Barbenheimer breakdown, folks. As much as we shovel dirt onto the upcoming releases for the coming month, we will be reviewing all of them.
I'll be seeing most of
and
those movies.
That's true. That's true. So maybe we'll have to do some Abram presence on those reviews potentially, and other videos coming up too. I like these
I
non-review
do too.
specific episodes. I like these videos. Okay, Abram, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you guys next time.